The commercial fishery, 300 or 3,000 metric tons are annually. 500 people involved in it, and they reduce it. 70% of the sardines are reduced, which means they put them in this kiln, dry them up, and make flakes out of them to feed to pigs and cows, which loses a tremendous percentage of the actual nutrition when they do that. And it really stinks. San Carlos is not a place to be when they got that plant going, trust me. We've talked a lot about it. The pollutants that they've discharged from the water there and the quality of life that they haven't provided for their employees, 9 times the health standard for water containment. So it's not exactly a healthy place to be living in San Carlos. And that's your sardine factory, the shrimping. They have the pongas going out and they're netting 300 to 500 of them a night, if you can imagine, in this giant system. Each night, each boat, 300 pounds of juvenile fish for every 30 pounds of shrimp they bring in. That's 300 pounds of spotted bay bass, halibut, you name it, juvenile fish for every 30 pounds they get, which they sell for $140 at the cost of $105 for fuel and oil, which make the 2 fishermen make $35 from that. These are, by the way, 2004 figures, numbers. So you imagine with the price of fuel up where it is today, that they're not making anything unless shrimp are just selling for that much more. There are 2 species of shrimp, the yellow leg shrimp and the Pacific blue shrimp down there, and there's still a lot of shrimp around. But they'll troll the estros and just pull everything out. Gary was really shocked this year at the quality of the fishing in the estro. That, of course, he's been fishing it nonstop for 12 years, and says it's really bad. We're not getting all those big fish we used to get. I'm going, gee, I wonder why. It's obvious that somebody trolled it in recent history. And then it's not that the fishing was bad. I mean, 200 fish a day is not bad, but I stayed outside the estros a lot too and fished main channel and other areas. 'Cause I just, shoulder to shoulder with 5 other kayaks isn't very stealthy. I mean, you still catch fish. But one of the veterans came up and said, oh, it was a pretty good afternoon. This is the first day we fished only half a day. He says, pretty good afternoon. I said, well, how many did you get? And he goes, 5. I'm going, really? Cool. That's great. I didn't want to say anything. He goes, well, how many did you get? Oh, 170.
How the hell do you keep track of 170 catches?
You have little beads on the thing.
Oh, okay.
It's the only reason I ever keep fish counts is so I can tell from year to year what the trends are as far as fish being around.
Yeah.
That's the only reason, not to brag about fish counts. Fish counts are stupid for that purpose, like the party boats. They're using them to get people to count. If they counted every fish that came over the rail, they'd have even more people, and if they threw them all back, they'd have even more fish, and their counts would, That's why we have all these MPAs slapped on us. One of the reasons. Right? So each night, 45 to 60 tons of our sport fish killed for no reason. Not good.
What do they do with them?
Throw them in the water
Just throw them back.
or on the beach. And we
That's what all
saw it.
shrimping does.
We saw it.
Toss it back.
We actually saw it. My Spanish isn't that good, and they outnumbered me too.
Yeah.
Good idea. And here they are with the boats. This is Lopez San Mateo. It was scallop season, so they were out chasing scallops. But the little fish they had in the
And
things.
are they conscious that they're eliminating their own jobs?
Probably not, and for some of them they don't care. They're just trying to make a living. They're in a survival mode. There's no money. There's literally no money. No one has shoes. The stuff they have is worn. Guys are using these, diving masks, all the big helmets, stuff that you watched in Creature of the Black Lagoon. Remember? When some guy's sitting there pumping the air down to him with a hand pump. Serious.
Oh my God.
Serious. I mean, that's what they have, and you can see all the welds on it, and it's like, it's not even safe. Not even safe. And these kids, of course, are the ones they're sending down,
How safe do you feel then?
Oh, as far as safety goes?
Yeah.
Fine. I mean, they were.
Because you're not near any big town or anything.
Yeah, we were outside of town. We were 15 minutes down the river by boat on the beach. And they went past us all the time, waved, everybody was fine. But it was always with all the drug running and stuff, and they're looking for places to hang out because it's tightening up, and every time we tighten something up, there's another knee-jerk reaction to that.
Mm.
So you need to be conscious. We're going to talk about that in the safety section. And we took some precautions on that, and we need to take some no matter where you travel anywhere, because as an American, you're a target. Anywhere in this world now. You are a have, and the have-nots. And I could tell a story about what happened to me refereeing a football match in London this summer. I ended up in the middle of the riots. We barely got out with our lives. Thanks to Irishmen. We'll tell that one later. So, the players. We got the estuary gamefish, bonefish, red snapper, corvina, broomtail, you can read. Barred pargo, spotted bay bass are number one. They're everywhere, absolutely everywhere. So, the black snook was strangely missing, but you could hear them back in the mangroves because you can hear the pop as they go after the shrimp. The shrimp pop out of the surface and they go right after them. You can hear the snook. And they sit a little bit deeper and they're a little bit spookier. But there's definitely places where they're going to be more likely to be found. They like warmer water. So you have to go where the warmer water is. We were actually, the week we fished, in fairly cold water. The warm water was down to the south end of the bay where it's shallower, the south end of the whole ecosystem. The water down there when we went was 75 degrees. Where we were, it was 55. Right? And you have to pay attention. We got temp break, we got terrafin. You got all kinds of pictures you can use, and they're free. You don't even have to belong to the service, but you can pick up that data and figure out what's going to be happening. I called Gary and the boys for a week and said, "You guys better bring waders. That water's going to be cold." Nobody showed up with waders but me. And they're out there in their shorts, and then the wind starts to blow and you're wet. They were back to camp having lunch. I just fished all day. You know, it's never cold. In fact, sometimes a little warm, but you'd rather be warm than cold. Once you're cold, the day's over, especially near sundown. You know, you're shivering trying to get that last fish. It's just not fun at all. It's really not fun. It's just hateful. Now, remember that all these species can be found in each other's zones. They have caught tuna inside in the estuaries. Why? Because they're coming in and chasing what they want to eat. And you're factoring all that into your game plan. We'll talk more about that. So these zones do overlap. But in the estuary, this is what you're going to see. When you get out in the main part of the bays and to the mouth, the fish, as you notice, start getting bigger. Incidentally, there were sharks there too, including great white sharks. So you need to be a little bit cognizant of that when you go out into the bigger water. In the estuaries, if they're in there, they're probably breeding, and they're not a problem when they breed, historically speaking.
The barred surf perch, is it a lot healthier and bigger in size down there?
Oh, they go to 4 pounds.
What?
Wow.
4 pounds.
Holy smokes.
2 to 4 pounds is in the surf. Now, we didn't run into any in the surf. We found this one hole that smaller than this room, pulled 101 halibut, averaging 5 to 7 pounds. And we had big ones. The big one was 17.5 pounds. And those were in 2 mornings of fishing. Didn't find a single perch, did find a couple corvina. But that one hole, it was just
That's
like,
okay.
you could see them going by these doormats. It was like, that's fun. The guy said, aren't you getting tired of this? No. You're kidding? This day's never going to happen again in your life.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to get tired of it. Go chase baby spotted bay bass. Knock yourself out. I'm walking in the surf and catching them. It's so much fun. So quite a variety, as you can see. And, I mean, you've got a chance for everything. Wherever the water's moving, there's going to be something happening. I mean, it's just, you never know what's coming next. But we'll get to that when we get to gear. You go offshore, this fishery in the fall is unparalleled anywhere on the planet. I mean, it goes just absolutely berserk. The neat thing is no one else can get there. Unless you have a long distance boat, you're not going to be there. Unless you trailer down there and launch out of the bay, you're not going to get there. Or maybe hire out one of the pungeros to go out, take you out. Most of the guys down there are not fly fishing savvy, so your Spanish needs to be good. And some of the other guys that run the tours, they know who to get hold of. Jeff DeBrown goes out from Real Baja. He goes down there, and you can hook up with him. He knows the system pretty good. And there's a few others, too, that are really knowledgeable. We'll get to that in the credits. So, lots of possibilities for fish. If you like variety, this is your place to go. This is the seasons. I apologize for the size of the print when I made the chart. Red is red hot, and yellow not so hot, tan, as it appears here, the light yellow, and then white, don't count on seeing them. Your halibut, obviously, during the cold weather, are going to be more prominent. Your marlin, of course, during the warmer water, which is left over, incidentally, in December from the currents at the Thetis Bank in particular. That's where all the pelagics occur, mostly in the late fall there. They're a little bit behind just because of the way the current has to come around the tip of Cabo and merge with the Pacific Current. The Pacific Current runs right down the coast past there. So it takes a while for that warm water to come up, and as we said, the week we went fishing, it was already generating up to the very southern part of Mag Bay. So the flush there was warm water in and out. Up north it was cold water. And it's a large difference in temperature, 15 degrees. Keep in mind, anytime you get those sharp edges, bait fish cannot tolerate big changes in temperature. Even as little as 2 degrees is a lot for a bait fish. When you get 15 degrees, it's like a wall. Those bait fish do not cross that thermal curtain. They will not, because they die. So they'll stay on one side, and the fish, of course, find them on the wall, trying to move, and they just feed the wall. And that's why the guys that are good with tuna and the stuff offshore here, they're working those temperature breaks, right? Doesn't matter which side it is, as long as it's an edge, a thermal edge, and it's real important. San Onofre power plant down here, up to 3 degrees difference, water out versus in, and those flows, if you've ever been out there, you can spin your kayak around. There's 8 pipes, 7 of which they'll use at one time when they really get going. But it create a nice thermal curtain, and the bass will line up. Joe's been out with me. We just work the curtain, and you just look at it. You can see the physical part of the water, but your temperature tells you the same thing. So, gearing up, flies, rods, reels, hooks, everything you need. These. Wait, no, back to that. Can you go back? Corvina.
What?
We were taking
Wow,
Corvina.
the white sea bass.
See the fangs? See the fangs?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, they got, we didn't see too many orange mouth, but we had the short fin. And we had the short fins to 15 to 17 pounds.
Huh.
There's a good pulling fish, by the way. Our old favorite, taking just about anything. And then most people don't take small flies. I was after some bonefish, you know, because Gary said there's not bonefish down in that area. After 10 in one morning, he changed his mind. He's sitting right there taking our pictures. I said, you're not taking bonefish on those very often. It's a little big to get in the mouth. And they weren't huge bonefish. They were, to be fair, the biggest ones were probably about 2.5 to 3 pounds. So nothing huge, but just make smaller tackle.
When you're down there, do you have an average size rod, 10 weight?
Ah, glad you asked. It's pretty good, huh?
Good
Luck of the
timing.
Irish is what it is.
I,
Good timing. In the estros. And if you have room for it, take a light rod. 6 weight, and it's not to be generally used in the estro unless you're away from the mangroves. And all these rods, by the way, need to be stiff in the butt. Stiff in the butt. It's got to be in the butt, Bob.
No
Remember
laminate. No
that? See
laminate.
that?
No glass rods.
Now I'm dating myself. That's a Bob Eubanks. But your rod there, it can't be really bendy because you're going to need that lower section of that rod to haul these fish out of the mangroves. And it's a tug of war, trust me. These guys were really funny because when we fish, we sit sideways on the kayak, you know, with our feet over the side, so we're in a nice chair position. We have fins on our feet so we can maneuver the boat and have 2 hands free for fishing. These guys like to sit in the kayak with their legs in front of them, which has to hurt your lower back by the end of the day, big time. And as soon as they hook up a fish, as they're pointing at the mangrove, it's like watching a slingshot. You hook into an 8-pound grouper and the kayak just goes right into the trees. Right into the trees. And then you got this guy, help, 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 get sucked in. And they're saying, you need 25-pound test leaders. You need 30. I said, what for? You just need fins so that when he hits at the outside of the mangroves, you start kicking. Don't let him get his head in there. As soon as he gets his head in there, they'll take you in. And it's a long way back in the water in there sometimes, hundreds of yards, and there may be even a lagoon back there. We did a little exploring. We actually fought through the spiders and everything to get back in there. So leave your 6 weight on the outside. There's some areas for bone fishing along the main channels and stuff and flats, as we're going to look at in a bit. But the smallest one I took was an 8 weight, and it was plenty of fun. My 10s are, you know, we were taking 2 bass at a time. If you had 2 flies on, you were catching 2 at a time. You just feel the first hook up and then just count to 10, and you'd feel it get heavier as the second one would hit. So 6 to 10 weight, if you're going to fish big fish in the estros and the big grouper are in and they come in the summer, you're going to want those. Those are big, mean, nasty fish, and those leopard grouper can pull big time.